You, the president? We're terminating the contract. I work at a design company, and I have a close, joking relationship with my father, Daniel Taylor, who is the president. However, my father fell ill and was hospitalized, so I had to take over as president. While my team and I were working hard to increase sales, our business partner, Mr. Richard Wilson, informed us that the contract was being terminated. He looked down on us subcontractors and used us for cheap labor. Go ahead. Actually, I had already made up my mind when my father was hospitalized. When I told him of my determination, he laughed at me and terminated the contract. But one day, while I was watching the news, I saw something shocking. My name is David Taylor, 43 years old. I work as a designer at a design company. I receive requests from clients every day and lead a busy life. My father, Daniel, is also the president here, so I might take over the company in the future. He's also nearly 70 years old and wants to retire soon. So it's my job as his successor to make sure he can retire comfortably. Plus, I live with my parents and my mom often pressures me to get married. If I become the president, I need to consider finding a wife too. Our company only has about 30 employees, but they're all capable workers. They handle requests briskly and have a good reputation with clients. If we continue to perform well, the company will grow even more. However, my father's health is declining each year. He's quite old and frequently complains about being tired when he's at home. Lately, he's been coughing a lot and seems to be feeling sluggish. I've urged him to see a doctor many times, but he stubbornly refuses, probably because he dislikes hospitals. Worried, I check on him whenever I have a break at work. Dad, how are you feeling? When I ask, he grimaces with annoyance. Not again. I'm not sick. I'm perfectly fine. He raises one arm to show he's healthy. Don't overdo it. I can hear you coughing from your office. I don't want to catch a cold, so please go home. When I voiced my thoughts, my father frowned and grumbled. You don't have to be so blunt. I don't have a cold. I sighed at my father's bravado. Lately, we've been having more of these conversations, almost escalating into arguments. But I'm only worried about his health, not bothered by him at all. Darn it, you're such a stubborn old man for not noticing your son's concern. What did you say? You've always been too outspoken. My father and I have been exchanging banter since my school days. It never gets physical, but we both have sharp tongues, and there's an unspoken rule that whoever wins the argument is the victor. We know neither of us is truly angry, so these exchanges continue. Besides, stop slacking off and get back to work. I finished my work. That's why I came to check on you. At that moment, the office door opened, and an employee entered. Apparently, a business partner had arrived and needed my father's attention. Hearing this, my father immediately switched from being a dad to being the president. Today is the day Mr. Richard is visiting. We can't afford to be rude. Mr. Richard. The moment I heard the name of our business partner, my stomach tightened. Richard Wilson is the director of a major publishing company with $100 million in sales last year. And we've been dealing with him for a few years now. But honestly, I don't like him. He repeatedly makes condescending remarks towards subcontractors and tries to assert his dominance. He specifically requested my father because he thinks he's important. We could handle this over the phone or remotely, without him having to come. We must not speak ill of our business partners. Every client is important to our company. My father sharply rebuked my comment. He firmly believes in putting the customer first and will go to great lengths to make them happy. But such self-sacrifice can be detrimental in critical moments, so I sometimes disagree with his approach. While I respect his attitude of valuing customers, I also want him to take care of himself. As I pondered this, my father straightened his posture and headed to the meeting room. The office and the meeting room are on the same floor, and I could hear their conversation through the partition. Sorry to drop by unannounced. Not at all, Mr. Richard. You're always welcome here. I frowned at my father's gentle tone, which was a stark contrast to our earlier argument. Thank you for coming in this heat, so what would you like to discuss? As I worked, I observed them through the partition. Though the frosted glass blurred the view, I could easily identify Richard's middle-aged, overweight figure. He sipped the cold tea brought by an employee and sat with an air of arrogance, legs crossed. I have a job request, but it's urgent. Can you complete it in 2 weeks? In that case, here is the estimate. My father pulled out his tablet and showed the estimate to Richard. But Richard immediately started to complain. Can't you make it cheaper? How about $500? An urgent job request with a 2-week deadline, and on top of that, only $500 as the fee. It's absurdly unfair. But we have other commitments as well. Even my father couldn't immediately respond to such a low offer. Richard leaned forward and criticized him. Are you going to refuse after I went out of my way to come here? If you don't want it, I can pass it to a competitor. His blatantly condescending remark made me stop typing. My apologies. We will do our best to meet your expectations, Mr. Richard. My father greeted and accepted the low offer. Your designs are well received at our company. I expect you to do a good job without cutting corners. Pleased with getting his way, Richard shook hands with my father. Taking on such unfavorable work conditions will trouble us employees. To produce excellent work, the fee needs to be reasonable. After Richard left, I complained to my father. Dad, why did you accept such a cheap job? It's us employees who will suffer. I'll help too. Besides, Richard is an important client. We must not speak ill of our customers. He sternly warned me. Unconvinced, I headed home with a feeling of frustration. But even after accepting the job, Richard frequently contacted us, making unilateral demands. One day, he called when my father was out, and I had to handle it. Thank you for calling. Mr. Taylor is unavailable right now, so I will assist you. What? The president isn't there. Is he slacking off by not answering my call? I was infuriated by his insult towards my father. My father is not someone who slacks off. Father, sir, you're the president's son. I could hear the surprise in Richard's voice over the phone. But I calmly replied, Yes, I'm his son, David. What can I help you with today? Working at your parents' company must be a nepotism hire. You'll spoil yourself if you take it easy from a young age. It was clear he hadn't heard what I said, as he continued his condescending tone. I trained as a designer at another company before joining this one. It wasn't nepotism. Don't try to cover it up. Despite my clarification, he spoke lightly, dismissing my words. Although I remained respectful since my father wasn't around, I was still irritated. Anyway, what can I help you with today? I believe we still have some time before the delivery date. Oh, right. Besides the current project, can you take on another job? Richard's call was about a new request. A new request. Let's discuss the estimate. No, just add it on. The same deadline will be fine. Richard was trying to increase our workload without adjusting the payment or deadline. This would only add to our burden, so I couldn't respond right away. Calming myself, I firmly replied, Our company policy is to charge additional fees for extra requests. We can't take on new tasks without adjusting the deadline and payment. But before I could finish, Richard raised his voice. Are you refusing my job? You subcontractors don't have the right to refuse. What? I was shocked by his sudden harsh tone. I'm giving work to your small company. You should be grateful for that alone. Mr. Richard, I understand your point, but we have our own constraints. He looked down on us as a subcontractor. Fearing that angering him further would cause more trouble, I tried to gently appease him, but he cut me off. You can refuse, but remember, there are plenty of replacements for you. You're just a disposable company. Hearing such extreme disrespect, I clenched my fists tightly. If you endure my rudeness now, I'll forgive you. After all, we're a major company. He was likely waiting for my apology, expecting to push through his unreasonable request in return. If I yielded, we would face similar situations in the future. I regret overstepping, but we will need additional fees for the extra work. What? Other subcontractors did it without charging extra. He couldn't hide his frustration as I remained firm. At this point, I was determined to get the additional fees. We have our policies. If we took on the extra work for free, it would be a huge loss for us. You've been talking back to me this whole time. As I braced for his next words, I heard someone calling him in the background. Suddenly, his tone shifted from aggressive to friendly. "I'll be right there," he answered. Then, turning back to the phone, he said, "I'll put this on hold for now, but don't think I'll forget your defiance." I tried to respond, but he abruptly hung up. Staring at the beeping receiver, I sighed. What a troublesome client. Checking the time, I realized I'd spent over 2 hours on the call. If Richard hadn't called, I could have made progress on our current projects. Short deadlines and low-paying jobs. These are tough assignments for us designers. But to my father, these were minor issues, and pleasing the client was the top priority. When my father returns, I plan to report the phone call, but I'm not looking forward to it. He'll probably get angry and say, "Don't turn down requests on your own." Just imagining my father getting furious made me sigh again. Reluctantly, I reported to my father when he returned to the office. I received an additional request from Mr. Richard earlier. I explained the unreasonable conditions and the condescending remarks. My father looked surprised for a moment, but listened silently until I finished. "I see, so that happened while I was away. I feel bad for turning it down on my own, but if we keep taking on cheap jobs, it'll only increase the burden on our employees. Though he prioritizes customers, he doesn't neglect his employees. We get bonuses twice a year, and there are systems for parental leave and certifications. Thanks to my father, there are no complaints about the work environment in our small company. You did the right thing, thank you for firmly refusing." What? I was expecting to be scolded, so his gratitude was unexpected. I couldn't help but feel a bit deflated and sighed. Having reported to my father, I was about to leave on time when it happened. Just before the end of the workday, Richard barged in. "Mr. Richard, why are you here?" When I rushed over, he glared at me. "I came to complain to the president." My father joined us, and Richard angrily started complaining about the phone call. "Your son made extremely rude remarks to me. He should apologize." "That's ridiculous. Please stop making false accusations." It seemed he had come all the way to our office just to file a complaint, blaming us entirely. As Richard kept demanding, "Apologize," I became increasingly annoyed. "You're the one who made rude remarks, Mr. Richard. I remember you looking down on our company." "What did you say?" While we glared at each other, my father suddenly knelt down. "Dad, I mean, Mr. President, why are you doing this?" I hurried to help him up, but he refused to move. "I apologize on behalf of my son. I am truly sorry." Richard looked down at my father and then stomped on his head with his leather shoe. "If you can't even educate your son properly, you should quit being the president." Even as his head was being ground down, my father didn't resist. He just kept apologizing. "I am very sorry." Seeing this scene made me deeply frustrated. I didn't turn down the request to have my father treated like this. But my rash actions not only angered Richard, but also made my father clean up the mess. I felt like punching myself. Suddenly, I made eye contact with Richard. It felt as if he was saying, "Aren't you going to apologize?" So I apologized as well. "I apologize for my rude remarks." Seeing both my father and I apologize, Richard smirked. "All right then, as an apology, will you take on the additional job?" "Of course." As if waiting for that response, Richard laughed loudly. All right, I expect excellent work from you. After Richard left the company, I immediately apologized to my father. I'm sorry. It's my fault. Don't worry about it. When you live as long as I have, you get used to apologize. He smiled warmly while patting my head. Although we often argue, my father is far more capable than I am. I realized I had been taking his kindness for granted and saw how inexperienced I still was. Let's go home. As he said this, he suddenly started coughing violently and collapsed. I quickly called an ambulance and went with him to the hospital. It all happened so fast, and my father's chronic illness had worsened, requiring him to focus on recovery. So, I took over the company in his place. The next day, I explained the situation to the employees, who were worried about my father but supported me becoming the new president. While my father was in the hospital, I handled the transition of duties and informed our clients about the change in leadership. The next day, I made a call. You, the president, we're terminating the contract. Those were the first words out of his mouth. Richard didn't show any concern for my father and just mocked me. But when I became president, I made a decision. Go ahead, I replied, and I could hear Richard's surprised voice on the other end. What? Are you okay with terminating the contract? You'll be trampling on your father's efforts, who even apologized to me. Do as you please. My curt response seemed to irritate him, and he clicked his tongue. Your father must have a hard time with a useless son like you. Maybe you're the reason he's in the hospital. His insensitive comments made me angry. But reacting to his every insult would get me nowhere. Richard likes to provoke and enjoys seeing reactions. The best response is to ignore him. After we deliver the current project, we will terminate our contract with your company. Thank you for the long-standing business relationship. Holding the receiver, I greeted slightly out of habit, which made Richard laugh mockingly. What an idiot! Cutting ties with a major publisher is such a waste. Well, let's pray to the matchmaking gods for a better connection next time. I responded quickly to his sarcasm. This seemed to irritate him, and he clicked his tongue. Don't come crying to me when your company goes under. I won't help you. Thank you for your concern. I'll be sure to lick your shoes and beg for mercy if that happens. My response left Richard momentarily speechless. But he spat out, "Remember those words," before hanging up. After sending off the final deliverables, we completely terminated our business with his company. The employees, who already had issues with Richard, felt a mix of relief and anxiety about losing work from the major publisher. Seeing their concern, I began to explain. Actually, I had been considering ending the partnership since my father was hospitalized. When I shared this idea with my father during his stay in the hospital, he surprisingly supported it. I see. I won't say anything more. Oh, you're not against it? While handing over the business, my father quietly responded. You are the president now. It's up to you to decide whom to connect with or cut ties with. Do what I couldn't do. When he said that, I felt like crying. Honestly, when my father collapsed, I was really anxious. I didn't want to think about him leaving this world, and the thought of carrying the weight of our employees' lives made me freeze up. But hearing his words, I made up my mind. I am the only one who can protect this company as his son. As I pondered, my father gave me some tough love. Stand tall. Who would want to follow a president who looks uncertain? Seeing how worried I looked, he spoke harshly but smiled. Right. Leave the company to me and follow the doctor's orders to rest. Good, good. You're back to your usual self. I'll leave the rest to you. Now, as the representative of the company, I resolve to move forward. No matter what happens, I will work hard with the employees. I will improve the company's performance not by imitating my father, but in my own way. All right, now that it's decided, let's get to work. I assigned tasks to the employees and actively reached out to other companies. Even when I faced rejections or got water thrown at me, I thought, this is better than apologizing to Richard, and persevered. I also focused on employee development, hiring many new designers, and setting up a training period to enhance their skills. The more talented people we have, the better. When my father was hospitalized, everyone was down. But as more employees joined, the company started to feel lively again. Working as a team, we complemented each other's strengths and weaknesses, improving efficiency and seeing positive results. Let's keep increasing sales at this pace. When my father is discharged and returns, we will all welcome him and give him back his president's chair. However, while our team was coming together, dark clouds were gathering over Richard's company. Since then, my company has never been in the red and has steadily increased sales. Thanks to our efforts, we secured new contracts and maintained good relationships with clients. The employees have grown significantly, reducing work hours, and through workshops, their design skills improved, and the quality of our products increased. And most importantly, my father's health is improving, and everything is going well. When I visit him, he looks healthy. While I'm at the company, my mother keeps him company, so he isn't bored. My father constantly worries, asking, "Is the company okay? Are you paying the employees properly?" It's fine. The employees and I are doing our best. Recently, we even won an award at a national design competition. That's amazing. When I talked about the employees' achievements, my father looked pleased, which reassured me. Thanks to the award, we're getting offers from well-known companies. It's almost scary how well things are going. When I said this jokingly, my father's expression suddenly turned serious. Don't get complacent when things are going well. That's when you're most likely to fail. Keep your guard up. As a president receiving this advice, I instinctively straightened up. Yes, sir. But maintaining a profit is quite an accomplishment. He gave me a gentle smile. That expression was more of a father watching over his child than that of a president. One day, I suddenly remembered Richard. I had completely forgotten about him while focusing on work. Since we terminated the contract, we hadn't contacted each other, and there was no action from his side either. Well, we probably won't have to deal with him again. The company is doing well, and I didn't have to lick the manager's shoes. Muttering this, I turned on the TV for a break, and the evening news was on. What I saw shocked me. What? I stopped working and glued my eyes to the TV. Richard's company was under investigation for allegedly stealing products. Apparently, they were in legal trouble with several creators they had contracts with. The company repeatedly asked the creators for revisions but didn't pay any additional fees. Furthermore, they used rejected proposals for other products without returning them, violating contracts. As far as I know, about 50 creators were affected. As a result, the company was sued for damages by the creators, but they ignored the claims, leading to a lawsuit. People who saw the news criticized the company online. It's horrible for a major publisher to disregard creators. I'm never buying their magazines again. The backlash online was intense. As I followed the online reactions, I found posts from affected creators on social media. Although I was concerned about the person in charge from the beginning, it became difficult to build a trusting relationship during the dealings. When I expressed my desire to terminate the contract, their attitude changed drastically, and I was even threatened. One creator wrote, expressing distrust and criticism toward the company. Reading the news and online posts, I was at a loss for words at how terrible Richard's company was. How awful, if we had continued working with them, our designs would surely have been misused too. Despite the fear, I was reassured that cutting ties was the right decision. Richard's company is now being investigated for other potential offenses, and their operations have been halted. This incident will likely impact not only their sales but also their customer trust. But now, it doesn't concern us anymore. They need to work on regaining trust for their clients' sake. While I'm curious about who the person in charge mentioned by the creators is, I resumed my work, A few hours later, as I was about to leave for the day, an employee rushed into the president's office, looking alarmed. Frowning at his expression, I was startled when he said, "Richard is here." "Why is he here?" I quickly questioned the employee, who said, "He keeps demanding to see the president. Even when they tried to turn him away, he wouldn't comply and was causing a scene in front of the company." "Got it? Let's go right away." I ran to Richard with the employee. As we reached the entrance, there he was, just as reported. "Bring out the president. I need to talk to him." The other employees were trying their best to calm him down, but he was only getting more agitated. "Mr. Richard, are you looking for me?" When I appeared, Richard grabbed my arm with a desperate look. "Please, re-establish our contract." "What?" I was puzzled by his sudden visit, but his reason caught me off guard. "Why are you doing this all of a sudden? I saw the news. Shouldn't you be dealing with that?" "If you saw the news, then you know why. Because of the lawsuit, other companies are terminating their contracts with us one after another. Even while his company is under suspension, they're losing contracts with their partner companies. If this continues, they will lose all their connections as soon as they reopen, and their sales will drop significantly. To prevent this, Richard came to me, begging to re-establish our contract. He was so exhausted that he couldn't even pretend to be arrogant anymore. Sweat poured from him. His hair